recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Barr and Ranking Member Foster, for organizing this timely hearing to discuss the recent bank failures. And I would like to say on the record that I believe the Biden administration's American Rescue Plan's $1.9 trillion injection into that economy helped spur inflation to a peak of 9.1% in 2022, inflation rate that we haven't seen in 40 years. And to tame that inflation, the Fed was forced to act swiftly by raising interest rates at a pace also not seen in decades. Unfortunately, the state of California, where I'm from, we have seen firsthand how partisan economic policies can lead to the failure of two of its biggest banks and wiping nearly $500 billion in assets in just a matter of days along the way. So this is why we're having the hearing, to get to the bottom of those bank failures, and we are trying to strengthen our financial system and protect the backbone of our economy. Those are the small and medium-sized financial institutions, because they are the ones who provide much-needed capital for our small businesses. So let me ask the first question to Mr. Gould. A lot has been discussed regarding FDIC's actions to resolve and sell SVB. So do you think it was a mistake by the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation to close SVB by midday on March 10th?
Congresswoman, based on what I know from the reports, SVB lost something on the order of over $40 billion in deposits on Thursday, and I think at least based on, again, what I have read in reports, regulators anticipated another $100 billion was going to flow out the next day. Mm-hmm. That is, as I understand it, a deposit run of huge magnitude. So I think the decision to close them was really all that they were left to do. They had no other options. I think there are good questions that could be asked about what led up to those events. But I think at the time, Thursday, Friday, looking at those kinds of deposit outflows, I think that gave them great pause.
Do you think there could have been other ways the California regulator and FDIC could have done differently in the resolution of SVB?
Well, again, it's a little hard for us, I think, to judge, simply because we don't have all the information of what went on, both in the period immediately preceding the closures by California, but also over that weekend, and then in the kind of week or so that elapsed until the FDIC found a buyer, or at least a partial buyer.
Let me follow up, and then I'll ask another question. I know this has already been discussed by previous members who asked the question, and my understanding is that the regulators have the tools like the S-2155 to prevent banks' failures. So can you elaborate on that? Because I wasn't here when that conversation took place. Can you elaborate on your thinking on the argument that S-2155 caused the bank failures?
Sure. So the discretion that S-2155 afforded the Fed in particular, but the regulators in general, gave them the ability to tailor enhanced prudential standards based on the asset size of the banks. They did so over the course of 2018, 19, 20. Had SVB been subject to the enhanced prudential standards that would have existed but for S-2155, with the exception of the LCR, which they would have failed, they would have passed every single other test. And even failing the LCR, it's important to note they were already failing the more important internal liquidity stress testing, and the Fed was not enforcing the existing regulations on the book. And if they had, in order to pass the LCR or to pass their internal liquidity stress testing, they would have had to bulk up on even more high-quality liquid assets, which are themselves, ironically, subject to interest rate risk. So they would have bought more government obligations, thus increasing their exposure to interest rate risk. That is a perverse and ironic impact of regulation in this particular case.
All right, well, I know I only got 9 cents, but, I mean, 9 cents, 9 seconds. Maybe I'll just address that, ask that, and hopefully you can follow up with that last question that I was going to ask. I will yield back. Thank you.